Thank you, Mike, for that. I realise we're running a bit late, so I'll try and do this as quick as we can. What I want to do is to ask you all a question, because you've all been very quiet, which I know is not normal for estate agents. So I'd like to ask you all a question. What makes a brand? And just shout out some answers, please, if you can. What is a brand? What's a brand all about? Identity. Cool. How you make customers feel. Very good. Anyone else? Say again? Sorry? Recognition? Yeah, good. I think you're all right. I think it's all of those things. I think I would sum it up in one word, and that is expectation. And I'm going to illustrate that with this slide. Who thinks they would get the best service from Ryanair compared to Virgin Atlantic? Who thinks you'd get better service from Virgin Atlantic? Me too. Who thinks you'd get better prices from Ryanair? So why is that? Why do we think that? Is it the logos? Not really. The logos are perfectly good and perfectly respectable. It's because of this. It's because that's the service we've come to expect from Virgin Atlantic, at least I'm told. And this is what we've come to expect from Ryanair. And you could apply the same to these two brands as well. We'd all expect to get better service from Waitrose than we would from Asda. And the reason is this, and the reason is this. And that's why I think a brand is a bit like an iceberg. You've got a bit of stuff above the waterline, the stuff that people see. You've got their logo, your logo. You've got your brochures, your website, your shop front, your brand identity. And yes, that has an effect on how people perceive your brand. But then you've got all this stuff below the waterline, which actually has a much bigger effect on how people really perceive your brand for the reasons we've just seen. It's everything that people see and feel and touch and smell and hear and read about your brand, and every experience they have about your brand. That is how that is what really determines what they feel about your brand. And that is why I think, it determines what they can expect from your brand and what they trust you to do, and what they perhaps trust or don't trust you to do. So what I'm going to share with you today is a formula that we've developed for my own customers. And actually I've been running this since before I took a detour into Brighton and Hove Family Homes. I've been running this business for 11 years now. And this is a formula that we've developed for our own customers. And we use it all the time with our customers. And I'd like to share it with you, and if some of it is useful to you, then that's fantastic news. And it starts with understanding your customers and understanding who your best customers are. Let me illustrate this. Now, imagine you had 4 different valuations with 4 different people over the rest of this week. So you've got your professional landlord, you've got your first-time seller couple, you've got your family, and you've got your elderly lady lighting her 100th cigarette, her cigarette on her 100th birthday candle. Now, would you emphasize the same things? Would you talk to these people in the same way? Would you emphasize the same messages to these people? I don't think so. I think you'd emphasize very different things. With a professional landlord, you'd be talking about yield and return on investment and how this property will maximize his long-term property strategy ambitions. With the old lady and perhaps the first-time seller couple, you'd be talking to them in a much more kind of arm around the shoulder sort of way. You'd be talking to them and telling them how you're not going to run off with the old lady's pension book, and how you're going to help them all through the process and help them understand the sales process and hold their hand all the way through. And perhaps the family, you'll be telling them about how you're going to get a nice family in to rent their home and return it to them as they left it if you're letting it. But yet most estate agents' websites and brochures and brands and everything else tends to talk to people as if they're all just one big blend of all of these people, as if they've all been put in a blender and they've just come out as one morphed person, which is strange because almost every other industry segments their customers into different groups. This is basically the Holiday Inn group, and they've realized that actually you can, there's a bunch of people who are happy to spend £59 a night and get a room on the Wandsworth roundabout, and you've got other people who are prepared to spend 10 times that amount and get something with, a very, very different offering. And all the segments in between as well. And it's not just hotels, because supermarkets do it as well. There are some people that want to spend 89p on some sausages, and there's other people who are prepared to pay £3.50. Airlines do it, and railway companies do it. Media companies do it. This is Britain's biggest media company, and they've segmented all of their audiences, not just into people who like equestrian pursuits and women, but within that, they've segmented that as well into tiny, tiny little segments of people, each with slightly different needs. And because of that, they have dominated the market, and they've got a fantastic grip on this market. Now, imagine if they tried to develop one magazine for all of those people with all of those different needs. It'd be a rubbish magazine, wouldn't it? No, they wouldn't know what they were writing. They wouldn't know who they were writing for. They wouldn't know what age group, what interest they'd have. It'd be rubbish. It'd be awful. Car companies do it as well. And sportswear companies, they segment their markets into people with different groups of needs. But estate agents tend to do this. They tend to treat everyone treat all their customers as one type of person. And as we all know, actually, if you try to treat everyone the same, then actually you don't strongly appeal to anybody. You're everybody's third choice, and that's no good when when they're only making one choice on one agent to sell or let their home. So that's the first step, is defining your target market, and that's something that we can help with. The second thing is about being brilliant for this reason, because the reason we discussed earlier, that it's about the service that people feel and experience from your product. That is what really makes them, what really defines how they see your brand. Here's another example. Apple and Google are the world's most valuable brands right now. It's not because they're advertising, it's not because their logo, their advertising actually is fairly unmemorable. It's because their products are so damn good. Because Google is just so brilliant at everything it does. And it's because the iPhone was such a game changer, wasn't it, when that came out as compared to the old Nokia bricks. And that's the reason their products are so good. By contrast, you've got these three companies who've actually, their products have failed in numerous ways. BP, when they drilled a hole in the wrong place in the Gulf of Mexico. Northern Rock we all know about, and VW we all know about as well. And tens of billions of pounds have been wiped off their share price as a result of that, because they got their product wrong. So that's the second step, about just making sure your product and your service is as absolutely fantastic as it possibly can be. And again, that's something that we can help with. The third is about being lovable, because we all buy brands, whether we like it or not, based on our emotional connection with them as much as our rational connection with them. We buy with our heart as much as we do with our head. Here's why it's important. This is somebody I follow. We're tracking companies that are growing at 15% or more year after year profitably, even in tough industries. Without exception, they all make their customers feel special. That was your word, Mark. Feel special. It's really, really important. Here's a great example. These chocolate bars are both made by Nestle. They're probably the same chocolate inside, I should think. But they're shaped differently, and they're packaged differently and branded differently. One very much aimed at men, one very much aimed at women. These two cars are virtually identical. They're both the VW group. They're both basically a Golf underneath. And the only difference is the badge and how many they sell a year. And the difference is how it makes those people feel to have that car sitting outside their house. Now, who remembers the Pepsi challenge from the 1980s, probably? So what they did is Pepsi went around supermarkets and they asked people to do a taste test Pepsi against Coke. And most people, and they put a box over the bottles so that you couldn't see what you were drinking. And most people chose Pepsi because it's slightly sweeter and tastes slightly nicer. So 8 out of 10 people chose Pepsi. But then when Coke did it, they did the same test, but they took the box away. There was no box in the first place. And so people could see what they were drinking. And guess what? 8 out of 10 people chose Coke instead. And why? Because there's some kind of emotional connection that they had with the brand, which was making them believe in a psychosomatic sort of way that they were enjoying the product more. This man, he's got a bit of an emotional connection with a particular brand, doesn't he? And these people have a slightly negative emotional connection with a brand. So, I hate Foxtons in Google, 21 million results. There's an Avoid Foxtons Facebook group and an I Hate Foxtons Twitter group. But you shouldn't be scared of hatred, and this is another important point. Hatred's a bit strong. You shouldn't be scared of people disliking your brand. Because if people dislike you, some people dislike you, then you will have, hopefully, a larger number of people liking you. Because the worst thing in the world is actually the opposite of that, which is indifference. And if people are indifferent to you, then that's when you become their third choice, and when you end up actually in no man's brand. And I tell you what, I'd much rather be a shareholder or the marketing director of Apple than I would of HTC, or of Foxtons than I would of, I don't know, Townends perhaps in London. Anyone here from Townends? So a little cartoon, which I quite like. So that's the third step then, is actually trying to connect with the heart as well as the head. The fourth step then is wrapping all of that up into a message, into something which makes you stand out. This is your differentiator. So, quick quiz for you. For this is the message of a particular car company. You've probably guessed it already. For drivers who value performance, who makes luxury vehicles that deliver joy through German engineering? Shout out, anyone? BMW? Hands up for BMW? Hands up for anything else? Anyone else think? Mercedes? Hands up for Mercedes? Hands up for Audi? Okay, it's actually, you're right, it's BMW. Now this is their actual statement. Now this is the kind of their mission statement, if you like. Now this is not necessarily something that goes into their advertising, or not directly at least. This is what kind of appears in the loo, and they tattoo it on their eyelids, and they tattoo it on their hearts, and this is the message that drives the company. And this has been turned into, somebody brilliant back in the 1980s probably turned this into the ultimate driving machine as the strapline, just those little 4 words. Here's another nice one. For macho guys and macho wannabes, who makes big, loud, all-America motorcycles that give them the taste of freedom and adventure? And it is... Exactly. Quite right. This is the perfect message structure, the perfect structure for a message. For macho guys and macho wannabes. Yeah? So they've identified their target group. So that first orange circle that we had, that is their target group. But they've identified, they haven't kind of said, oh, it's men in the, the demographic of 34 to 46 and with a, socio ABC one. They haven't gone down that route. It's just macho guys, wherever they are, whoever they are, and macho wannabes. People who aren't James Dean but want to be James Dean. And they make big, loud, all-American motorcycles, so that's what they do. And it gives them the taste of freedom and adventure. They're probably a photocopier salesman in Dullsville, Omaha, but it gives them the taste of freedom and adventure, and that is why it's brilliant, and that is why ads like that are absolutely fantastic. Somewhere on an airplane, a man is trying to rip open a small bag of peanuts, but I'm driving my Harley across the desert. Now, of all the agents I've spoken to, hundreds over the last 11 years, and when I say, the first question I say is, what makes you special? What's your thing? Why are you the best agent in this town? Okay, they will say, I'm experienced, or they will say, I've got great local knowledge. Or they will say, I'm professional and friendly. Anyone here got those words on their website? Anyone here not got those words on their website? Yeah, exactly. The problem is that if you do a search for experience plus the phrase estate agents, you get 36 million results. If you do a search for professional plus friendly plus estate agents, you get nearly 36 million. And if you do local knowledge and estate agents, you get 397,000 results. But even that 397,000 results, how can that be? There's only, 8,000 agents in the country. It's extraordinary. But the point is, if all those people are saying all of those things, actually it's not much of a differentiator, is it? Actually what they're saying is, actually I'm the same as everybody else. And how can the poor vendor decide who they want to choose based on that? Because actually everybody's the same. Oh, I'll just go for the green one then, or the blue one, or the orange one, because it's my favorite color. So that is the fourth step in this process is making sure you've got a message which really defines you and really makes you stand out. There are other steps as well, which I'm not going to go into now because it's nearly lunch and I can hear tummies rumbling, but you then make sure all of your communications and your website and all your visual stuff and all your brochure and your shop front and all of that, your Facebook activity, and all of that conforms to Mr. Bruce, which stands for memorable, recognizable, believable, relevant, unique, clear, and engaging. And if you can do all of that, you will have a great brand. You will have a great brand. Now, all marketing agencies, I'm not going to do a sales pitch, but just give me 10 seconds. So all marketing agencies do all that. Because we specialize in the one industry, your industry, the estate agency industry, we do all of the below the line, the below the watermark line as well. Thanks for listening, if you have been. I've been Charlie Snell. Thanks very much.